Hello again and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B technical sales and business podcast brought to you by the training team of George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm one of the trainers here at George James, and I'm also the host and producer of this podcast. And I'm here today with two guests to look at today's topic. First of all, I've got a colleague from George James, owner and founder of George James, Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan, how are you? You haven't been on the pod for a while. How are you doing?
No, I know. I've done well to avoid it. I'm very well indeed, thank you. Looking forward to. I love doing these.
Do really?
So looking forward to it. But yeah, all going well. We've had a great start to the year. So hey, I'm going to be happy, aren't I?
Absolutely, as we all are. And I'm also delighted to welcome a guest, and it's somebody who I've known for many years. We've worked together in a couple of companies. We've also done business together here at George James as well. And somebody who's very, very active on LinkedIn. So at the end of this podcast, make sure you go and check her out. Her name's Rupa Ark. Rupa, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Steve. It's good to be here.
Great to have you here. So thanks for coming on the pod. Do you want to just briefly introduce yourself and what it is that you do right now?
Absolutely. So I'm Rupa Ark. I am currently working for a company called Azenta Life Sciences. So Azenta Life Sciences is a company that provides sample management solutions, automated sample management solutions. And I'm the senior director for the EMEA consumables and instruments business. I have 25 team members, in sales, channel sales, inside sales, 3 managers reporting into me. And yeah, it's exciting times to be in the life sciences industry.
It's a great business. We've done some work together recently, and it's a great team and a great business. And it's great to have you here. We wanted to get you on the podcast for quite a while, so thank you so much.
I know you finally got me.
Yeah, and I know you want to do your own podcast at some stage as well. So here's a chance to see behind the scenes, as they say, inside baseball. I think is the sort of what they call the inside podcasting. It's like an industry joke anyway. We'll move on from that.
They're great podcasts. I've been following your podcast and
thank you
to them every week. So yeah,
that's very kind. We'll send the check later. So today's topic is one I think is something that we can all relate to at some stage, and I know it's one that I've experienced many times throughout my career, including even into my current role, and that is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, it's obviously specifically within sales. I looked up a definition of imposter syndrome using a well-known AI app, so it may or may not be accurate, but this is what I've got anyway. So this is a kind of start of a 10, guys. So it says here, imposter syndrome is the persistent feeling that your success, competence, or achievements are somehow undeserved, despite evidence that you're capable and performing well. I actually quite like that. I think that's quite a good definition of what imposter syndrome is. But now moving that forward to think about people listening to the podcast, people in sales, people out there day in, day out selling, laboratory precision, life science, all that kind of stuff. How does that actually translate to the people doing the job right now, people listening to this podcast who I'm sure from time to time do experience imposter syndrome? How does that manifest itself, do you think, guys? What's your thoughts on that?
I think before I answer that question, what I was going to, as you were describing, giving that definition, I was going to say imposter syndrome doesn't disappear with experience.
That's a great point.
25 years in, plus years, it evolves. And it evolves in a way that you often sort of show up in different times.
Okay.
I'm having imposter syndrome as I am talking to you here.
I have it every day on the podcast.
Yeah, right? But what it is, it shows you're growing, right? So I think it really is something, in my coaching and mentoring, we talk about this. So I just wanted to sort of start by saying.
That's a great point. Thank you for doing that.
Your question, how it shows up and what it looks like in sales. And in preparation for this podcast, I was sort of looking back at my own career over the 25 years.
Sure.
We sell very technical products to highly expert in the industry, right?
Yeah.
The life sciences. You could be in front of a postdoc, a PhD qualified, PIs, CEOs of the companies.
Yeah.
And you're selling them highly technical products and you're talking to highly technical people. And that's where one area where it shows up.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
That is probably from the life sciences sales perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, the person we're selling to will always be more knowledgeable about their field than we will be, as we touched on actually on our last pod.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what's your views on how imposter syndrome turns up?
Well, I think I'll come into this discussion by actually just picking up something Rupa just said, which is if you suffer from it, it shows you're growing.
That's a super point.
One thing I've noticed about imposter syndrome is that, and Rupa, you'll be glad to hear this, and anyone who's suffering from it, my observation would simply be the people that I've seen who've suffered from it have always been high performers, strangely, okay? And I think that goes with, and one of the reasons, of course, they're high performers is they're constantly looking for ways to grow.
Absolutely.
It's it's really interesting. So when Steve asked me to participate in this, I was like you. I started thinking about my life and my history in this business and all of the people that I've met. And, and I was just running through the really high achievers that I've met and I've worked very closely with, and they all, to some extent, sometimes suffer from it. And now, of course, I'd love to put myself in that category, right?
Yeah.
But I leave the listener to judge where I am. But I have to say, I have suffered from it a couple of times. I think when I was started in selling, I was so probably overconfident and so enthusiastic and about what I was doing and love what I was doing. There was just this naivety. I don't think I really realized the people I was meeting. And I always remember my very, very first sales call alone. I went to the Institute of Neurology in London and met one of the world's leading researchers at the time. And I met just this, and I didn't feel intimidated because, if you suffer from imposter syndrome, you can feel intimidated. But I remember walking in to see this lady and she was amazing. And she said the first thing, she spoke before I did, and she said, "You look awfully young. How long have you?"
Must have been a long time ago.
How long have you been doing this job for? And I said, well, of course, I said, actually, you're my very first sales call. And she said, well, you're very lucky because I'm looking to buy 2 instruments. So that's another issue.
Yeah, but I think you're right there. I mean, you said something there that it's that confidence versus competence, right? So you can be really, really competent person. You still feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think competence is what you know, and confidence is how you show up and how you apply. So in your case, you were showing up, Jonathan, and then what the customer said to you make you feel, okay, I'm at the right place. I'm okay here. I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really important. And again, we were talking about where does it show up? And again, giving the example of the life sciences industry, you sometimes taking off a new product. And when a new product comes out, you've got to be ready. You get all the training and you're going and have to do a demo and you prepare. So, we'll come on to probably in a minute about how to address your imposter syndrome. But again, it's that preparation and then getting that confidence from preparing well.
Absolutely.
But I mean, if I may share another example.
Please.
Even now, I'm saying, I do coaching and mentoring, and we talk a lot about, and when I tell my mentees that I have still not as much as I used to, and I think that comes with experience, but I will go into a meeting now and I look around the room and I will say, oh my God, okay, am I prepared? Have I got everything right? You do have that sort of knot in your tummy. That nervousness, bit of imposter syndrome. Am I in the right room? I still sometimes have that question. Am I in the right room? And so, so I think, Jonathan, what you're describing is
I've suffered from it too in relatively recent times. Despite, a sales career now more than 40 years, I've walked into a conference room where, and let's face it, there's been a huge number of people, quite a significant number of people there. I mean, well over 100, 200 people in some occasions or more. And here I am sort of, leading the training at this sales conference. And I absolutely feel like an imposter. Obviously, I'm not going to name any names, otherwise that might weaken my negotiation position. But
I was having a conversation with one of my reps not long ago, and it's that pressure of knowing everything.
Yeah, but you can't know everything.
You
can't. It's not
right?
possible.
So
you
it's
know,
like,
yeah.
okay, and the customers normally are not looking for perfection.
no,
They're looking for
not.
relevance.
No,
They want the relevant solution. What
Absolutely.
is going to help them? They're not looking for that perfect pitch.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I had this conversation with one of my reps, and literally they were very sort of overwhelmed by not knowing everything. And that's when also then the imposter syndrome shows up.
Yeah. And let's face it. We've met some anyone listening to this podcast has probably met some amazing scientists.
Yes.
In some cases, they may have even won a Nobel Prize, in some scientific discipline, right?
Absolutely.
Or they invented something significant, or they played a key role, and participated in something that was that saves lives, that makes a huge difference. And real easy to feel like that as you move towards a conversation with them. Yeah.
I just want to pick up on a couple of things. I mean, first of all, guys, that was great. Thank you. It's great when you're the host and you don't have to say anything. It's fantastic. But picking up on what you said, Ruben, about sometimes feeling like you walked in the wrong room, I generally did feel that when Jonathan and I were involved in a large training course in Dallas in a hotel of 1,800 rooms. I actually did think I'd walked in the wrong room at one stage. I think I probably did. But in all seriousness, the word we've used a lot now in this section is suffer. I've suffered from imposter syndrome, and suffer is as a word that has negative connotations. Suffering from grief or pain or whatever. But is it a bad thing in that case? I don't necessarily think imposter syndrome is a bad thing.
No.
So is suffer the right word?
I think this is good. Can you have such a thing as good suffering?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking, really, yeah.
If I pulled my English language course book off the shelf there's I'm not going to make a fool of myself by stating what that is, but I think it is good suffering because my observation would be it's driven, great. It's driven really good or great. In some cases, I've seen it drive great performance from people. And quite frankly, they've done something which they never thought they would be capable of.
Absolutely.
And they've come away from a conversation with somebody with enormous credibility. And of course, then there's that huge boost in confidence that it gives them, but they still suffer from it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I agree with you. I think suffer is a strong word. It shows up. It shows up for me at times, and it still does. And I think to answer your question, is it bad? I think it's bad if you don't become aware of it and do anything about it. Okay, so it's about acknowledging it. So when it shows up for me, I acknowledge it. Okay, I'm in that room. Yes, I am here because I was asked to come here.
Correct.
I'm here because I've been hired by the company to do that job because of my capabilities, because of my skills, right? I am here because I have worked for this space where I am, right?
Yeah.
So I think I agree. It is good, provided that you are aware of it, you acknowledge it, and you do something about it.
Yeah.
I think that...
or your manager recognizes it.
Yeah, good point.
And helps you manage that. It can, it can really hurt people's confidence.
Absolutely.
Because you suffer from it once. I think I've seen people suffer from it, not just, because, right, I'm meeting this leading scientist, right? Or I'm meeting a senior executive of this large organization. Why on earth would they want to talk to me?
Mm.
But I've then seen that roll over into many more conversations where it shouldn't really, but it does. It's,
Absolutely. And just to come back on what you said a minute ago, Rupa, as well, if I can, about confidence and competence, because I think that's a really important point I'd just like to come back to. To me, if I'm feeling imposter syndrome or I'm aware of it, that to me means I'm not overconfident. Overconfidence can be not a good thing sometimes in sales, where we think we just got to walk in and we can just, inverted commas, wing it, I think in business, if I'm feeling imposter syndrome, it means that I know I've got to prepare. I've got to really put the work in beforehand. I've got to know my stuff before I turn up, really. So I think in that respect, it's a good thing, yeah?
And also, you also said something there, preparation. I think it often shows up in over preparation as well.
Okay. Tell me more.
Right. So again, sometimes we are prepared so again, giving my example, you prepare. And then you sort of almost start doubting yourself. Have I done enough? So hesitation, that holding back, it's rather than the obvious fear, it's the holding back that actually sort of thinking, oh, yeah, I've done enough. I've done prepared. It's okay. I can do this now. It's going back to, again, that having that self-doubt. So, yeah, where you've sort of got yourself tangled,
Yeah. Yeah,
in
absolutely.
overthinking.
A bit like when revising for your finals all those years ago. Yeah. Have I done enough?
What was that?
I'm actually meeting some university friends this weekend, so I'm going to meet some people I haven't met for 40 years. That's going to be interesting. That's a massive digression. Anyway, so what are your thoughts regarding confidence versus competence, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And I'd probably just go back to, I know this is a little selfish and self-indulgent. I'll probably just talk about a little bit about my own career. And I've seen it true of other people. I think when you first start, I got a great start in selling. I, worked for a good company, got some great training, had some really amazingly capable people around me. And I was just constantly coached, mentored, challenged, etc. And although I wasn't, and they constantly, one of the things they were really good at was they constantly boosted my confidence, right? Even though from a competence perspective, wow, I still had a lot to learn, and I was losing orders that I'd never lose today, of course.
Of course.
So I think where you've got one or both at a very high level, perhaps it's a very manageable thing. But I remember, when I moved away from my first company and went to another organization and met, again, some extraordinarily capable people in that business. But now I was meeting a level of customer that I'd never met in my life before. And suddenly, my goodness me, my competence was relatively low again. Confidence wasn't high because it was a completely different job as well. And so I remember making a visit to, I think was one of the inventors of magnetic sector mass spectrometry.
Wow.
And I really felt, I did feel I had a terrible dose of imposter syndrome in the lead up to that meeting. And I did what you said it, Rupert. I almost certainly over prepared for that meeting, if there is such a thing, right?
Oh, I think there is, yeah.
A disproportionate amount of time preparing that. And then I made this amazing discovery about people like that. And this is more a cure for imposter syndrome, or a possible cure, was that he gave me the best training course I think I've ever had in my life on magnetic sector mass spectrometry, right? I went to see one of the first instrument he'd ever built. And he gave me this incredible training course. And it was just, it was, wow. It was a really surprising.
Really good example.
I was definitely suffering before I went there.
So, I think I'm giving that example of a technical sales. So we work in life sciences. We sell highly technical products.
I know, yes.
And again, you're not going to know everything.
No, you can't.
No, you never can.
But being competent means, and being competent saying to the customer, okay, I don't have all the knowledge, but I know somebody who does.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's where your confidence comes in. And to me, confidence always follows an action, right? So it's like you're going to say, okay, I will bring in somebody who knows. So at that point, not trying to sell something that you're not able to completely give the answer to the customer. Remember, customers are looking for those scientific solutions. So this is where your confidence is, okay, I'm not expert at everything, but I know who does.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring them in.
Totally agree with that, yeah.
That's how I absolutely say you can do both.
Yeah.
Just reflecting on my own career as well, guys, because you both given examples of your own. And when I've experienced imposter syndrome most is when I've really stepped up, like when I moved to Thermo Fisher, moved into that organization and the sheer complexity of everything else and that feeling of being completely overwhelmed by everything, really. Is there, eventually I've very quickly found my level and got into it, but is there something here where perhaps managers and leaders need to be aware when people are stepping up significantly in their role or in their
Absolutely.
responsibilities.
Absolutely.
They may not feel that they've got the skills and the knowledge to do the job.
No, but I think there's the two things. I think
Okay.
Jonathan sort of alluded on to that earlier, that what managers can do. And this sort of so first of all, you are a manager managing sales teams.
Yeah.
And they are having my reps, general account managers, technical sales specialists, whatever they are, well, they're account managers. So a rep could be moving from an account manager to a strategic account manager.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's a very different job.
You are completely moving into a different world where you're going to be speaking to senior people at a
CEOs, the
pharma,
likes,
CEOs, the CFOs, the big procurement. So that's where, as a manager, which we are promoting. And then, of course, if you're becoming a manager, then it's completely. So I think as a manager, you have to be aware and sharing. I mean, to me, and you mentioned about me being on LinkedIn, you know how transparent and authentic I am.
You're superb on it, yeah.
And it is all about sharing so normalizing that it's okay to have this bit of a fear, bit of a imposter syndrome that shows up. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be feared about.
Yeah.
So as a manager,
or ashamed
you're
of,
right.
yeah.
Ashamed of, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And sharing your own experiences. I openly talk
Agreed.
about these things.
Strongly. Yes.
Yeah.
And and letting people be curious. I think, again, we talked about imposter syndrome, that people who really, if you're curious, you'll be asking lots and lots of questions.
Absolutely.
Right? And have that curiosity. And as a managers, it's all comes into coaching. I think it's a key factor that you should be adding to your day-to-day mentoring and coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think another scenario, and go back to the competence and the confidence here. I think especially when you move, I think when you make a career move, right? You make a move in role, you move up, etc. Something else that, if I reflected on my, did I truly reflect on it at the time? Perhaps not, but I have subsequently. I think it's very easy to end up, I've worked in one organization, well, one particularly, where I met some incredibly talented people. And when I compared myself against them, it was, oh dear, right? They've achieved more in a sales environment than I have. They've got better academic qualifications than I have. So everything was, it was kind of stacked against me. Now, I mean, that just made me more determined.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think, again, if you're managing a team and, and you're promoting somebody, well, high level, be conscious of it. Because I guess if I felt it, I know I'm odd, but I'm probably not completely odd. There's probably other people that have thought like that too. And I
Sure, we all have.
Still today get intimidated by one or two of the people I meet because they're phenomenally smart, right? They've achieved so much in business, but then they've also got incredible knowledge at a scientific level as well, and they've got a first, second, and even third degree, and you just think, wow, okay, so boy, am I on guard at that moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. We are living in a comparison culture.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
We're living in social media, oh my God, who's got more likes than I have and how many followers have I got?
Oh, that doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I mean, great.
Does me a little bit.
Do some people, yeah.
It does me a little bit.
But I think you mentioned something. Oh my God, he or she is better than me, and that's where also imposter syndrome shows up. Jonathan, you made a very valid point there about having that higher personal standards. It's always just so currently we are in that culture where you got to post on LinkedIn about somebody's posted a big win on LinkedIn, and you're sitting there reading and thinking, oh my God, wish I could do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm just thinking while you're talking, guys, but and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm just thinking out loud. Is there something though for managers and leaders to be aware of for somebody who is really, 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 really having lots of imposter syndrome? That might be an early warning that actually they aren't coping.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just thinking that out loud. Could that be an indication, actually, in all honesty, they're having some massive imposter syndrome because they really are finding it really difficult and not coping? Or am I overthinking that?
Yeah, I think so. As managers, the only way you're going to see that being spending time out in the field with your reps. And I think depending on how you're structured, how much time you're getting with everybody. It's like where else? And the other places to see would be in team calls,
Yeah.
right? So, when you have a team call, you always, I'm very much of the case that everybody should have their camera on, and especially on a monthly team call, we have this town hall, and then we give everybody the opportunity to share their success stories. And you make a valid point, Stephen. As a manager, your radar should be on a high alert.
Completely.
To sort of say who is not speaking up, who is the one that we know they're doing a good job, but they never speak. Why aren't they sharing their success story?
Yeah.
Right? What else is going on?
Yeah.
And then being out in the field when you're out with them, sitting down, because how would you know somebody's got when I tell people imposter syndrome shows up to me, they're going, "Are you kidding us, Rupa? Seriously?" Absolutely. So I think
but it's because we're human beings.
Very valid point.
Yeah.
We're human beings.
What's fascinating for me, guys, is that, I've been in this business for 40 years, and I think if every listener was honest with themselves, how long have they spent discussing this topic? Because I can honestly say this is probably, I don't know whether this will stay and all be edited out, but I can honestly say that this will be the longest I've ever had a focused conversation, on imposter syndrome. Before now, it's been a kind of in-passing conversation, really. And yeah, it may have been 5 or 10 minutes here with a rep or somebody, I can think of a conversation somebody had with me. And sometimes it's been family members that have helped me, through it. But I'm not sure after, that I've spent this long actually discussing this topic.
Promise I'll leave it in, Jonathan. Promise.
Right, okay. And I never asked Steve.
I think, Jonathan, you make such a valid point. My example, only started talking about my own sort of any self-doubt about me since I sort of hit middle age. Okay. Sort of when you become a bit more comfortable with who you are.
Exactly.
So I think as you, and you start, and now I openly talk about it. There's nothing, I talk about everything, and women's health, leadership issues, or whatever there is, to encourage the next generation to come up and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So, but you're absolutely right. Few years back, no. I mean, I went on coaching, a lot of like mentoring and coaching programs where we would stand up and do a little session on imposter syndrome. But you're absolutely right. I don't think so. We talk about it enough, but you're right. It's conversations to be had, especially as managers, as leaders, as coaches.
Yes. I've got so much going around in my head now after you've said that. I don't know what to say.
Well, let me say something in that case, because we've managed to speak for nearly 30 minutes on imposter syndrome. So as a kind of a wrap-up then for both of you, if somebody's listening to this right now in the car and really relating to the conversation, saying, yeah, that's me, I'm really, to use the inverted commas, suffering with imposter syndrome right now, what's one thing that you would say to them to give them something to think about? Perhaps one from both of you. What would you say, Jonathan?
I would say look at it as an opportunity to learn. And Rupa, I apologize if I've taken yours there.
No.
I would look at it as an opportunity to learn. And I think if I reflect on all of the various methods that I've tried to manage this, when it struck me, and it's not something that's even struck me consistently. It's just occasion. It's just, wow. I now know I'm inverted commas suffering. I know we tried to define that, but look at it as an opportunity to learn, because boy, when I reflect on those scenarios where I perhaps was suffering inverted commas most, I learned the most because I was so thorough in my preparation. I didn't over prepare, right? I went to a depth that I've never been before, right? And I read about topics that I've never read about before, or I've listened even more intently to what I was being told. So, it's really helped me learn. And I know most of the time we just learn in lots and lots of small steps, but I can think of a couple of occasions where I've learned things that have just made a massive difference in my business career. Okay. And that's helped me enormously, I have to say. That would be a tip I would give anybody. Look at it as a fabulous learning opportunity.
Love that. Did he steal yours, Rupa? Or did he have something different?
No, well, very similar. Well, what I'm going to say, bringing it back to sales, is, if you feel like your imposter syndrome shows up occasionally, it usually means you are stretching yourself.
Absolutely.
And in sales, that's where you need to be.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right. And also learn. And I think the other one I really want to bring the confidence back, speak up anyway. Right.
Great
And,
advice.
just speak up, ask the right question, be curious, and everything will work out.
Yeah, because there's bound to be somebody else in that room or in that meeting, or somebody will find you afterwards to actually empathize with you around this. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
My final thought was that the people most worried about doing a good job are often the people customers trust the most because they care enough to prepare, listen, and improve.
Yeah.
And again, I've stolen that, but I think it's a great wrap up because it shows that you care, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Imposter syndrome shows you care.
Yeah.
And
right.
customers value that, don't they?
Yeah. And how many customers ever explicitly ask that question? Do you care about me? Not very many, right? But it's probably going around in the head. So, yeah, in the head.
Absolutely.
Jonathan, Rupa, thank you both so much for the conversation. We could have carried on this for another couple of hours, I think.
Sure,
really.
it's over with.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have you back again, Rupa. It's been great having you on. Thank you so
So
much.
I don't get an invite back, but you do.
Well, you work for the company, so you'll get one automatically. But we'll definitely have you back on, Rupa, if you could. We've been fantastic having you.
It was lovely talking
Thank
to
you, Rupa.
Jonathan. Hope you found this coaching session useful.
It has been very, very thought-provoking. I've now got more questions than I had coming into it. So.
You've got lots of notes to follow up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole aim of the podcast. And seriously, Jonathan, thank you for
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Rupa.
Some of our colleagues in elsewhere in Europe are otherwise engaged. It's a holiday day today in Central Europe. So thank you very much for coming on. If you've enjoyed today's episode, dear listener, don't forget to give us a like on Apple or Spotify, ideally a 5-star review. It does help us in lots of weird and wonderful ways. We are planning to take this podcast not live, but as a video podcast onto YouTube. So that's me, my imposter syndrome, having to learn how to do that. But we definitely got to do it in the near future. As always, if you've got topics that you'd like us to touch on in the podcast, then please let us know as well. And of course, if you're like Rupa and you would love to come on a podcast, we would love to hear from you as well if you're working in sales or sales leadership in our core markets of lab, life science, precision instruments. We'd absolutely love to hear from you as well. I'll be back again in a couple of weeks' time with another topic. Until then, happy selling, and we'll talk to you soon.